You are who God has called you, before your parents knew your name, before the world had expectations for you, before failure tried to define you. God had already spoken your identity. Before you were born, before you had a voice, before you had a social media profile, before anyone had expectations for you, God already had a thought about you. In Jeremiah, we're reminded that before we were formed in the womb, God knew us. He didn't discover you later. He didn't adjust to your existence. He knew you. That means your life is not random. And I know sometimes it feels random. Sometimes it feels like everyone else is ahead, like everyone else figured it out, like you're behind schedule. But God doesn't operate on comparison. You might feel ordinary, but heaven doesn't see you as ordinary. The book of Ephesians says we are God's workmanship. Think about that. Workmanship. When someone crafts something carefully, they don't rush it. They don't throw it together carelessly. They design it with intention. That's how God made you. Even the parts of you that you don't like. Even the parts you're still working on. Now listen carefully. Just because you don't see the full picture doesn't mean God isn't painting something beautiful. Look at Moses. He doubted himself. He told God he wasn't good at speaking. He literally tried to talk his way out of his calling. But God didn't change his mind. Look at David. Overlooked. Forgotten in the field. Not even invited when the prophet came to choose a king. Yet he was the one. So if you feel overlooked, don't panic. If you feel underestimated, don't shrink. If people don't see your value yet, don't start believing you don't have any. You are who God has called you. And sometimes the hardest part is believing that when nothing around you confirms it. Because calling doesn't always come with applause. Sometimes it comes with isolation. Sometimes it comes with confusion. Sometimes it comes with waiting. But waiting is not rejection. Waiting is preparation. In Romans, we're reminded that those God calls, He also equips. He doesn't send you somewhere empty. He doesn't assign you something without giving you grace for it. So if you feel stretched, if you feel challenged, if you feel like you're growing in ways that are uncomfortable, maybe that's because you're stepping into who you're called to be. And let's be honest, the enemy doesn't attack what is irrelevant. The pressure you feel might actually be proof of purpose. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not disqualified. Even if you messed up, even if you doubted, even if you walked away and came back, God's calling is not fragile. In Philippians, we're reminded that He who began a good work in you will finish it. Not you, not your strength, not your perfection, but Him. So breathe. Stop trying to earn an identity that heaven already gave you. You don't have to prove you're called. You just have to believe it. Walk in it, slowly, faithfully, daily. You are who God has called you, not who fear says, not who failure says, not who comparison says. Sometimes confusion is preparation. Sometimes isolation is training. Sometimes rejection is redirection. You are not lost. You are being shaped. The book of Isaiah reminds us that God formed you and will help you. He calls you by name, not the nickname pain gave you, not the label society placed on you. When God calls you, He speaks destiny. You are the salt of the earth. You are an ambassador of Christ. In Matthew, Jesus said you are the light of the world. Light does not argue with darkness. Light simply shines. Maybe you have been trying to prove yourself, trying to compete, trying to impress. Stop striving. Be who God called you. You don't need everyone to understand your calling. You don't need applause to validate your purpose. When God calls you, He sustains you, protects you, finishes what He started. The book of Philippians assures us that He who began a good work in you will finish it. You're not unfinished business. You're a developing masterpiece. So today, reject every false identity, every limiting belief, every lie that says you are less. Stand up spiritually. Declare, I'm chosen, called, appointed. I'm who God says I am, not who fear says, not what failure says or people say. You're who God has called you. Walk in it, believe it, live it. Because when you fully embrace who God has called you to be, you don't just change your life. You change the atmosphere around you. Remember this. Before you fight for purpose, search for identity. Before you try to become something, you already are who God has called you, who God says. And that is more than enough.